Shame gives you what you can grow from. That's what I believe. And you could decide if you want to grow from it or not. Like, it's your choice. Like, you get to make that decision. If you want to grow from your struggles or if you want to just like curl up in a ball and fall apart, which by the way, I tried that. We talked about it, like my depression or whatever. I tried that. Doesn't work very well. But I have to choose it. And when I was diagnosed with cancer, I had to choose happiness. I had to choose how to get through it without falling apart. I wasn't going back on antidepressants, and I knew I was at risk. I was at a huge risk of falling back into it because like it's one of the most shocking things to get diagnosed at 36 with no family history, barely any symptoms.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Anything But Traditional. I'm here today with my incredible neighbor, Shoshana Statsky. She is a true warrior. She went through infertility for 10 years and then went through breast cancer. Really excited to have her on today to share her story. And yeah, Shoshana, let's get into it. So, where did you grow up and what was your family like?
So I grew up in Lakewood. I am the third of 11. I have two older sisters and just like a big chaotic family. We were never actually like part of the Lakewood yeshivish community. And I put that in quotes because I have a lot of issues with the way people have this stereotype of Lakewood and the yeshivish of Lakewood. But I was always in the non-yeshivish schools but I was part of the Lakewood system and that's
Where
where
did
I
you go
grew.
to school?
I went to Avas Torah for elementary school. That closed down when I was going into 7th grade. It transitioned into a different school. My parents switched me to Beis Vega for 7th and 8th grade. And then for high school, I was in Beis Yaakov of Lakewood.
Okay, cool. And your husband, Zach, also grew up in Lakewood.
Right. Yes. He grew up in
Wow.
Lakewood. He was more part of the yeshivish crowd. His father was a Rebbe.
Oh, wow.
And his mother was, I don't know what she did then. I don't remember exactly. But right now she works for BMG in the office. So anybody who's been in the BMG,
What is BMG?
BMG is Beis Medrash Kavod. It's a big yeshiva in Lakewood, the biggest yeshiva, I believe, in America. I could be wrong. I don't know. So anybody who's gone through that system, which like nobody in my husband's family has, none of my siblings have, but anybody who's been in that yeshiva have registered for yeshiva through my mother-in-law.
Nice. Very nice. But you didn't know Zach growing up.
So fun fact, Zach and I grew up around the corner from each other.
Cool.
Yes. My family is 4 girls first. I'm one of 11, like I said, 4 girls, and then there were boys, and then there were a few more girls and boys. His family, he is one of 13, and there are 9 boys, so they're mostly a boy family, and we were more of a girl family. So we didn't like really play much with each other. We didn't have that much with each other, but our parents did daven at the same shul. And my father really only davened in that shul for Yom Noran. So I could even remember as a child going out in Rosh Hashanah to meet my father after davening with my mother and my siblings, pushing the stroller. And my mother would say, "Oh, there goes Rabbi Stavsky running home to blow shofar for the ladies," because he blew at 2 o'clock. Until today, he blows shofar for the ladies in his house at 2 o'clock. So that did not change. 40 years later, it's still the same thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So, but you like knew of Zach then, or you just knew of his dad?
I knew of the family. I didn't know him at all.
Wow. Okay, fine. So, growing up, what kind of student were you? Were you one of those type of students that were like, out of the box and like devilish, or were you more of like a goody two shoes?
So I am a recovering people pleaser. I was a people pleaser back then, and I always wanted to do everything perfect. I was a perfectionist, always doing everything perfect. I followed all the rules. Tried never to get in trouble. I was always terrified to get into trouble, but I wasn't a good student in the sense that I really struggled to get through school my whole life. Like I worked really, 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 really hard to get a B minus. Like I would spend hours and hours, and if I was lucky, I got that B minus. I was not like a smart book student. I had a very hard time taking tests, and I actually spent a lot of my 8th grade year and high school years suffering from migraines, and I missed a lot of schools because of that, because there were points where I couldn't get out of my bed. I had such bad migraines. Nothing to do with school per se, but I suffered from migraines for a lot of the years of my high school. I missed a lot of school because of it.
Wow, but you still were able to graduate.
Yeah, I did. I graduated.
Wow. Did it affect like friendships when you were growing up, or like?
Definitely, definitely.
Wow.
Definitely affected. Actually, one of my best friends today, back then we were not friends, and she's this really sweet girl, Rivka, Cher, and she's amazing, and I love her dearly. And she would call me. I was in 8th grade. I was out of school. I didn't really know who she was. She wasn't in most of my classes. She would call me every single day. I was out of school for about 6 weeks. She called me every single day to check in on me, and I would get so annoyed at her. Like I would tell my mother, tell her I'm not available. She would call. I would be like, I know the caller ID would come up her name. I'm like, I don't want to talk to her. I didn't know who she was. I barely knew who she was. And we didn't become good friends until 12th grade in high school. And that's her essence. Like, it's amazing how I see now, like, that's who she is. Until today, she needs a shit up if anybody has one. But
Wow.
she, like, when she comes to visit me in Israel now, she'll call me up. She'll be like, I have 10 pounds of luggage space for you. Like, who does that? It's that kind of person. So I gained
Wow.
her as a friend over the years, but one of my best friends from childhood who I grew up with, she lived down the block. We grew up in each other's houses. She couldn't handle it. And I lost that very good friendship. And there were some friendships that I lost because of it. But
Wow.
I also gained a few friendships from it.
Wow. Um, how did you end up finally meeting Zach? Since you didn't know him as your neighbor.
I did not know her as my neighbor. So, 2 years after seminary, I went back to Israel
Wait, what
for,
seminary did you go to?
I went to um,
Wow.
the Hayashan.
Okay.
It's called Seminar HaChadash now. So I was like the last year of the transition before the transition.
Cool.
Um, so 2 years post seminar, Rivka and I went to Israel for Yom Kippur and Sukkot to my sister, who was living here at the time. And we came just for, we were single. We wanted to come here for the Chagim. And we had actually gone together to Rev Gamliel in Geula for a bracha for Shidduchim. And it was straight from there that I went on my first date with Zach. But the way we met is you got, pay attention, okay? It's a little complicated. So my grandmother's first cousin, who is a couple years older than me, there's a huge generation gap because my grandmother's sister was younger than her, is 20 years younger than her. So it's like, so my grandmother's first cousin, who's like 10 years older than me, about, or 5 years, I don't know. He was in Israel for Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur also, and Sukkot. Um, he actually had just gotten married and was living in Lakewood. Okay,
Oh
and I
wow.
was coming from Lakewood, and he invited us for a meal on Sukkot. So I went there on the first day meal of Sukkot. And while I'm sitting there, I was talking about politics. I was very into politics, American politics, very into them. I knew everything. I used to listen. I was obsessed with Sean Hannity at that point. I was on top of my game on politics, and I was talking about it. And his wife, my cousin's wife, said, "Oh, I have an idea for you. There was this guy yesterday who was sitting at the head of the table. I think he'd be a good shit up for you." Meanwhile, Zach's brother was good friends with my grandmother's first cousin, and they were there for Sukkot, and so he ate the night meal there. And so his wife basically set us up. And since both our families knew of each other, it was like, "You want to go out? Go out." So the second day of Holomoid, Zach, I was bar Gamliel for bracha. Straight from there, I met Zach on the corner of Kikar Shabbat. He drove up. He's like, "How am I gonna know who you are?" I'm like, "Here, look, I'm waving. I'm wearing espadrilles," and like we crack up about it now, 17
What is
years later, because like
espadrilles?
he didn't know what espadrilles were, and I am the shoe queen. I have like 200 pairs of shoes, and you don't know what espadrilles are because you're not the shoe queen either. But espadrilles are like wedges, but they have like a wicker thing around the back of it, like they look like wicker.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, he picked me up, and started dating in Israel. We went on 3 dates here,
Wait,
and
why was he
then
in Israel?
he actually, the year before, he was in Israel, like he was coming home from yeshiva, and like he was done learning in Israel, and he got bumped on his flight, and they had a free ticket, him and his brother. So they came back for Elzman, and we were all from Lakewood. The Shoshana was from Lakewood. I lived in Lakewood, and Zach lived in Lakewood, and we got met up in Israel. And Zach was like all excited that he met me in Israel because he assumed I love Israel so much that that's where I want to live. And he was so excited because he always wanted to live in Israel. But
Wow.
his wife or his kala at that time told him, "Yeah, Israel's a really nice place to visit, but I don't think I'll ever live here." So it
Wait,
was
so
me.
but going back because I want to go forward into your
No,
Aliyah. Wait, so you guys went on 3 dates
I think it was 3 days. Yeah.
and then you got engaged?
No, 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 no.
I'm like
I know
Lakewood.
it's late, but not that. I mean, we dated very fast, but not that fast. Oh my gosh, no, no. So then we came back to Lakewood because we had flights home, and we continued dating in Lakewood for a few weeks. I honestly don't remember how many weeks we dated, um, but we got engaged on October 23rd, in 2007.
You also had your kids around then.
Correct.
When's
They
your
were born
kid's
10 years
birthday?
later.
On a
October 6th.
day?
No, they were in the NICU when our 10th anniversary that we were in the NICU. Yeah, they were born on October 13th.
Wow, so 10 days before your
10-year anniversary. Engagement anniversary.
engagement anniversary. Wow.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Beautiful. So, okay. So, I know that there's a lot of different parts here. So, did you go to college or you didn't go to college?
So I was not going to go put myself through the hell of college, the torture of tests and reports. I just like I didn't understand why anybody would put themselves through that. But I wanted to do something that was going to be a good career and give myself an education. So I went to vocational school, and I became a certified court stenographer
What?
in 2006.
What is court stenographer?
In court proceedings or in pre-trial motions and pre-trial conferences, which are called depositions. There's somebody there who sits with her little machine and types. That you've probably seen Law and Order or whatever. She's called a court stenographer. They're 90% women, so there are some men who do it, but court stenographer / court reporter. And I went to school for that right after I came back from seminary. I went to school for that, and I actually graduated the fastest of anybody ever in that school because I was like so determined to just get it done and just start working. And I finished in record time, and I started working in a year before I got married in December of '06.
Wow.
The real reason why went into this because my grandfather, who I was very close with all the time, um, back when I was, I think in like 5th or 6th grade, so I was little, he called my mom up and he said, you have a bunch of girls, they're gonna need to make a prognosis somehow. That I just saw a show on 60 Minutes of 6-figure jobs. And one of them was a court stenographer job. And you don't need a college degree for it. So that was like something I was very interested because I wasn't interested in a college degree. It was like too many years. I was not interested in that. And my sister, who's 2 grades above me, she's a year and a half older than me, she did all the research. She was going to do this. And she came back from seminary and the school wasn't starting until January. And she got a job in mortgages, whatever. And she's still doing that 20 years later. She never went to school for court reporting. And I came home and I already had all the information. I knew everything because she had done all the research. And I'm like, okay, I'm doing this. And I would get up every single morning. I would have to travel. And it was in Piscataway, New Jersey. And I lived in Lakewood. So it was about 45 an hour drive. I would leave my house at 6:30 in the morning so I could get there. And once I got there, I would dive in the car before school started, I think at 8:30.
You're
Like, I
so
gave
from.
myself time. Never, I was very firm back then. I would always give myself extra time. I was very, very dedicated. They say like to do 2 hours of homework every night. I would come home, 2 hours of homework, practice on the weekends. I would practice for like 12 hours. And that's why I finished really fast. Like I was like determined, like just to finish. Like
Wow.
after, I didn't do anything else. I didn't work. Actually, I worked one day a week in a store to pay for my gas and my phone bill. That was it.
Wow. It's so interesting because I never realized how by the book you are, like in terms of like being a stickler with the rules and just like following the rules because I feel like I don't view you as the type of person that's like a rule stickler. Like, you
So
know.
so the thing is that I was for many years. And I think once I was in therapy, I realized I don't have to follow. Like it was like kind of keeping me, like protecting me from the world outside. And then once I realized I don't need that protection anymore and I was able to be more myself and like I didn't need the rules to follow, I was able to become more of who I am today. And I stopped following all the rules and I realized rules are meant to be broken and to you don't die by the rules. You like live with them if they work for you, but they're not something you have to, you know, die by.
So when you met Zach though, were you like that?
Yes. So was he.
So he was also like that?
But even though I was like still very much in the box, I was already like somewhat out. Like I was a little bit rebellious, a little bit. Like you'll laugh when I say the things I was rebellious about, but like I wore nail polish, which I grew up not being allowed to wear nail polish. And it wasn't even like my parents were weren't allowed to wear nail polish. It just wasn't. Nobody wore nail polish. Like it wasn't a
Yeah.
thing in Lakewood. Um, and like I definitely wore color. Like I was always I'm sure you know, I don't own black. Like, I don't wear black. I mean, I have a black little accent piece, but like, I don't wear all black. And like, that was it in Lakewood. It's like a known thing for some reason. Everyone loves to wear black. Like, I never understood. So I was always very colorful in my dress and I expressed myself through my clothes. And like, I would wear like funky shoes. And like, so in those ways, I was a little bit like out of the box and being rebellious. Like, I was dressing to my own style, but the rules itself that I was brought up on, like those I didn't really break. They were
Wow.
all still in the conforms of the box, just like a little bit on the edge. I was not looking for somebody learning. Probably one of the only, if not the only, I don't even know if anyone else in my class married not learning. I did never wanted to marry somebody who was in Kollel. It was not my dream. I did not understand it. I did not approve of it. It wasn't, I'm not talking bad about people who Kollel, that's not the point of this. It wasn't for me. And I knew I wasn't going to pretend to live a life of Kollel, and I was not interested at all. But then, like 3 weeks before my wedding, my father sat down with my husband and said, like, you should really start your life out with learning, blah, 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 whatever he said. I don't know. And I was annoyed, but he was, my husband was like trying to be like that good son in law. So for the first 3 weeks, he joined this Colwell situation thing. But yeah, that lasted like 2 or 3 weeks. It wasn't like my parents
Wow.
were offering to pay to support us, which by the way, I'm totally against. So, and no hard feelings to them for that. Like, I don't believe your parents should be supporting you when you're an adult just because you're learning. Like, they have other things to do with their money. I mean, if they want to call it a vote, but I don't think it should be a thing. So, um, he was working before we met. And he just continued.
So, okay, so you and Zach got married and you lived in Lakewood, right?
Yes.
Okay. And you lived in Lakewood for 10 years? How many years did you live in Lakewood before you
Yeah,
made Aliyah?
10 years.
10 years. Okay. So, can you tell me a little bit about that time with Zach? What went on during those years? Like, let's just get into it. Like, start with, whatever you want to start with. But I know that you had a lot that went on during those 10 years. I know that you said that you always wanted to be a mother, right? Like, you wrote that to me a few times. Um, that you always, always, always wanted to be a mother. Um, I guess can we talk about that and how that like what were your expectations for your life as a mother, as a wife? Like what what did you imagine your life being like after you got married to Zach?
So, as I said, I was a little bit out of the box, but not, and I did not want to get married and pop out a baby after 9 months. That was not my goal.
Oh, wow.
Um, but my goal also wasn't to wait 10 years. Like, there's a balance in between.
We waited for 2 years before we started to try to have kids. So I
Right.
totally understand that.
Right. So I wasn't on birth control. I think we were using, I don't know, whatever, some other stuff. And just trying to push it off because I was like, I don't know you, you don't know me. Let's figure this out together and we'll start a family when we start a family. So when I first got married, I discovered that I suffered terribly from vaginismus and vestibulodynia, maybe. I don't even remember what the diagnoses were called, but like sex was very, very painful to the point that I blacked out from it because it was so extremely painful. And my
Wow.
college teacher, who I actually have a relationship with, and she's one of my mentors in life, and I love her dearly, she was convinced that I was sexually abused as a child. And that is why this was done. And I only say this because I know a few people whose therapists or mentors tried to convince them that they must have blocked out something and you were sexually abused. That causes it's not true. Nothing like that ever happened. I definitely had some traumatic experiences in my life, but I was never sexually abused or anything like that. But I suffered terribly with vaginismus and vulvodynia. I think that's called, yeah, vulvodynia. And I was just in a lot of pain. I never experienced this kind of pain before I was married because I never had intercourse before. And I was treating with a doctor in Philadelphia. He was great. And after a couple of years of treatment and doing all different kinds of things, they decided, him and his team, whatever, decided I should have surgery. So then that was when actually I spoke to an organization to help because to find out like who should do the surgery, and they referred me to somebody in Maryland. He was the top of the top of the top. I had to pay $10,000 cash for the surgery because he didn't take insurance for the surgery itself. Um, it was a lot of money, especially back then. Like, it wasn't like, I feel like no surgeon charged so little these days. But anyways, I went ahead and had the surgery. I don't remember how many years I was married when I had the surgery, but I had the surgery and it ruined my life. Unfortunately, the surgery was not a success. It caused me to have pudendal neuralgia, which is a whole nother um disease. It's not really a disease condition. It's a nerve condition. It causes nerve pain when I sit. Basically, it's when I'm sitting. So I have a hard time sitting, especially on hard surfaces. I can't ride a bike because of it. And during the surgery, I don't know what he did, but he damaged my hips. So from that surgery, I ended up having 3 hip surgeries that I never had any of these problems before. And I only used to have pain on intercourse, and now I have pain 24/7. And now this is going on at least 15 years later, and I'm still in constant pain from this surgery. I still have problems with my hips since then. I never had any of these problems before. So this is something that's affecting me my entire life. And this guy no longer does surgery. He doesn't advocate for surgery anymore. I've met other women who've had the surgery and have had similar outcomes to me. And I don't know why this guy's even still in practice. I looked into suing him. It was too much emotionally, but during this time, I spent thousands of dollars in like physical therapy, in manual therapy, all different kinds of therapy, and mental health therapy. And I also had like a mental breakdown during this period of time dealing with all this pain. And meanwhile, we were also trying to get pregnant at this point because we were married a bunch of years and we wanted to get pregnant. And I went for a whole workup also during this time with some reproductive endocrinologist. I don't remember who it was. And I checked out. Everything was fine. So like I was focusing more on like healing myself from all this trauma I was gone through from the surgeries and my hips and like figuring out if I was even able to physically hold the child because of my hips, which I was
Wow.
cleared for that. But I was in like till today, I have problems with my hips and I'm in constant pain for my hips and vaginally and my nerve pain and whatever. And during this period, it was probably over 3 years, I would say that I suffered mentally, debilitating depression, like debilitating so bad. Like people like to throw around the word I'm depressed and it just uses like nonchalantly, like depressed, like it's like not a big deal. Like everyone's depressed. No, not everyone's depressed. There's clinical depression is like a whole nother extreme where like all you see is black. You don't hear anything around you. You just like wish you can just die and not be around anybody and just everything's just black and you don't function, you don't eat, you don't drink, you don't sleep, you just like do what you need to do to barely survive and get through it. And my darling husband stood by me the whole time. I was hospitalized a few times from it. Like
Wow.
I just dreamed of being dead. Like that's all I could dream of. I would dream of like getting hit by a bus. Like I didn't want to kill myself. I was too scared to kill myself, but like that, I was suicidal, like straight out. I just wanted to be dead. I did not want to do anything else.
Wow. Like, did you ever attempt, like, when you say that you were hospitalized, like, you attempted to kill
I never
yourself?
attempted suicide, but I was practicing in some self-harm behaviors. They were worried about me. Like I wasn't eating. I was like skin and bones. I was really, really sick. Um,
And it
but
was
through it,
because of just all the stress.
it was it was because of everything. I just like everything was
Yeah.
just I was in constant pain. I was going through all this stuff. I was not getting where I wanted to go to. I was taking care of my body until then, and I felt like my body was betraying me. Like I was very into my health and exercise and staying on top of like nutrition and whatever. And I just felt like everything, like my whole body was falling apart. And I didn't understand it. I was just like
Wow.
everything didn't add up. And also like we all have trauma from our childhood that we carry alone. And when you go through a traumatic experience, it doesn't have to be relate into the trauma. It all boils over. So it was just a lot of things boiling over.
Wow. So, were you still trying to have a kid during those 3 years of serious
So I think
depression?
no one at some point the psychiatrist I was seeing was like, you can't get pregnant and he made me go on birth control, which was a devastating thing for me because like more than anything, I wanted to be a mother. Like that was like my only goal in life was to be a mother. I didn't care about anything else. So like to be taken like that was like almost taken from me because I was forced to be on on birth control. But like obviously like of course, I needed to be on birth control. I couldn't have a baby in that condition. Like that was obviously the right decision, you know?
Wow. So, okay, there's a few different questions here, right? Because I know that you said that you went on birth control, but you also suffered from vaginismus and the surgery did not work. Um, so what made you want to continue to have intercourse? Made you want to be able to like have that relationship when you were in so much pain and would black out? Like I am so
So
like it's amazing.
I wasn't blacking out every time we were together. It was just the beginning. Like literally the night of our wedding, I blacked out. My husband didn't know if he should call 911 or what he should do. Like, it was very traumatic time.
Wow.
But then, like, we saw a doctor and I started using dilators and going to pelvic floor therapy, which is a whole nother, it's kind of traumatic in its own way. Like, I spent years and years in therapy. I used to travel from Lakewood to Manhattan to see like a really top pelvic floor therapist there. And I would pay like $150 each session, plus parking, plus travel. It was an hour and a half drive. I was getting very good treatment. So it wasn't that I wasn't able to tolerate it anymore, but it's from the surgery, it's just a different pain now than that pain. But I also had vaginal Botox every 3 months for years and years and years. And I would get pudendal blocks also I don't know if it was every 3 months or every 6 months. And I actually had to go travel to a doctor in Rochester, New York to have those done. And we would drive there. It's like, I don't know how many hour drive. I remember driving through a blizzard, driving through crazy storms. Um,
Wow.
every 3 months, we would travel up there to get these treatments done.
That's
And
crazy.
the reason why I traveled there is because the doctors in New York would just give it to me, and it's a very painful to get vaginal Botox, but this doctor in Rochester, he would do it under general anesthesia.
I've
So I would
never
go,
even heard of vaginal Botox.
yes, I would go under general anesthesia to have the procedure done. It was like a whole big deal, and I would do that every 3 months for years. And then he moved to Florida, and I was so mad at him because I couldn't find anyone else to do it locally. I thought about flying to Florida to have it done, but we never ended up doing that. It was like shortly before I got pregnant that he left. So I didn't end up.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so you had vaginismus. Then you struggled with depression and you had 3 back surgeries while you were struggling with depression.
Got back surgery.
Hip surgery. Sorry.
Um,
That's
was it? I a lot of that period of my life is kind of a blur. Because of my mental health. And I don't know if it was all during the same time that I had the surgeries. Um, at the same time I was suffering from depression. I also like was seeing doctors all over the country for this. Like I flew out to Arizona. I saw a doctor in North Carolina, in Boston, um, somewhere else also. I don't remember all the places. Like I was seeing doctors all over the place, and I had these 3 surgeries, and yeah. So I don't know exactly the time frame. Like I would have to like look back and see if I could figure that out. I don't know offhand.
wow. That's
Don't pour me.
okay. Were you able to work while you were dealing with all that?
See, so that's where my stubbornness, which like people always stubbornness could be like good or bad, but like it's also stubbornness is really determination. It's really the same thing. And I am like, you can ask my husband, I'm like stubborn to a fault. Like, it doesn't matter how crazy I am. Like, I will do anything to prove everybody wrong just to prove you wrong. Like, I don't care if it makes sense. And like my therapist, who is the best thing that ever happened, when you find a good therapist, like hold on to them for dear life and don't let go. She didn't think I'd be able to work. Like, she told me after, like years later, she's like, she was so impressed that I was able to work through it all, but I was so determined to keep up my life and to keep up the facade that everything was fine because like nobody knew what I was going through. I mean, people did comment. I remember somebody actually commenting like I got so skinny, um, but I was like hollow skinny. I didn't look good. I was like really, really sick, and my husband wasn't telling me. Like nobody knew what I was dealing with. It was like very hush hush because there's such a stigma with everything I just talked about. Like with vaginismus, there's a stigma. With mental health, there's a stigma. Stigma. Like people don't talk about these things. So like I wasn't talking about it. Nobody really knew what I was going through, and I was just like suffering in silence with my husband and my therapist.
Especially like in
Yeah.
Lakewood. Right? Like I feel like in Lakewood it's even more of a stigma.
I don't know that for a fact or if that's true or not. I don't know. Obviously I'm from Lakewood. I grew up in Lakewood. I lived in Lakewood for 10 years after I was married. I have no one, I never lived anywhere else except HMH. So, I don't know.
Wow. How did you finally get out of your depression?
So I actually did something that was very controversial at the time and probably still is very controversial at the time. I had ECT done, electroconvulsion therapy. Really shocked my
Oh.
brain. And I am a very and there were for many years actually was a very big advocate for it, and people used to call me about it, and I used to speak to a lot of people about this because I'm a huge proponent of ECT. People think it's barbaric and whatever. But um there's nothing barbaric about it. They put you under anesthesia. It's not like you know what's going on. So it shocks your brain into being healthy again. And I was on every single antidepressant and combination possible. and nothing was working. I kept going back into the hospital. I was doing outpatient. I was also doing outpatient programs, and I was like barely a human. I was barely functioning. I was barely a wife. I was just pretending to like survive and like put myself together. And we needed something. And at that point, I was hospitalized. I think it was my longest hospital. Actually, I don't think it was my longest. The last time I was hospitalized, they told me like they'll only discharge me if I agree to this. And I was terrified. But my husband was like, "It's either this or you're gonna die." Like there was no other option at that point. Like nothing was working. So I agreed to it, and it was first. It was like a few days. I don't remember exactly, but it started off as very often. It's like a few days a week, and I was in Brooklyn and, my husband was working full time, so my mom would pick me up and my mom would drive me,
And you're
and
under anesthesia.
they put you under anesthesia. It's a quick procedure, put you under anesthesia, they shock your brain, whatever they do. I'm wearing a biplate, I think, and then you go home and you come back a few days later and they do it again, and then it gets slowly spread out, like, once a week, once every other week, every 2 weeks, and then the last one I think was, like, 6 or 8 weeks apart, and that was, like, my last treatment that I had of it, and I was like a new person. Like, I became a person, I became a human. I remember waking up one day and being like, "There are birds chirping, like, the sun is shining." Like, I hadn't noticed that in years. Like, I didn't even know what like, I didn't know that existed. Like, I didn't realize that there was, like, happiness around. I didn't know that there was sounds or noises or whatever. I was just so oblivious, and there were a lot of side effects also. Like, my memory was gone. It's part of the reason why a lot of things I just don't really know. I don't remember because I lost a lot of my memory from it during that time period. So things I did during then, a lot of it I don't remember. My short-term memory was affected a lot. I remember having sticky notes everywhere and just like alarms and stuff. Like I made it work for me because like I'm determined. Like I said, like people thought I was done. Like people thought I was never going to get out of this depression. Like I said before, like tell me I can't and I will prove you wrong. Doesn't matter. Like this was another thing that like I was going to get out of this somehow, some way, and prove everyone that I like. It's been now, almost 7 years since I've been off all medication, and I've never been on anything, even when I was diagnosed with cancer. And they wanted me to go back on it just in case. And I'm like, I don't need medication. I know what to do now. I've been off all medications. Is like my psychiatrist is like, she doesn't have any other patient who's been so sick as I was with mental health and been able to get off everything. And it did. It wasn't like I did the ECT and then I was fine and I was off my medication. It's still a process. It took a couple years till I got off all my medication, but 100%, it was the ECT that healed me, plus all the work
Wow.
that I did. I did a lot of work. It wasn't just like, you have to put in the work. There's a lot of work to be put in. And I put in the work and I did the treatment and Baruch Hashem, it worked.
So it's so interesting to me because the only way that I know what ECT is actually there was a musical that I like love, and when I get depressed I still like listen to it sometimes. And like I also struggle with like OCD and depression, um like diagnosed. And in high school I like forget a lot of my high school experience because I was so depressed. But when I was in high school for my 16th no, my 15th, 17th, I don't know, something like that, we went to go see this musical Next to Normal. And it
Okay.
was the best musical I've ever been to ever. It was about this woman who was on all this stuff because her child was this like died, I guess, of like SIDS or something after like 3 months of like being alive. And like the music is like this intense. It's amazing. Anyways, but she did ECT, and that's why I know what ECT is. Um,
Mm.
yeah. So okay. So how long after you did ECT and had the hip surgeries were you able to start trying to get pregnant?
That's a very, very good question. I feel like I think my last hip surgery was in 2010 and my kids were born in 2017. Just trying to do some math in my head. I think we started like actual treatment, because, well, we didn't know what the issue was. Like we started trying, I think like right away, like as soon as I was like medically cleared, but it took a few years because at first we thought my husband was having issues because I wasn't getting pregnant and like everything checked out on my end. So he went to see urologist, whatever, and they thought there was something wrong, but then he was fine, whatever. That's his story. So I'm not gonna go too deep into like what he went through. And then we started treatment for me, even though we didn't know what was going on at that point. We still had no idea. That was I started treatment, I believe, like injections, like when I say treatment, I think it was in 2015. No,
Oh,
2014. It was at least 2 years before that surgery. that I had in 2016 when they told me I'll never have children. I think it was in 2014.
Okay. And what ended up happening? What was your diagnosis? Like, can you share that?
So we had through Kedem, my husband worked for Kedem. He had very, very good insurance, which we were very blessed with. Because I had doctors tell me like, where do you get this insurance? Because usually only, like huge corporations or government, businesses, government entities have this kind of insurance because you have to have like a lot of employees. Well, Kedem, we're a wine corporation, is one of those companies.
Get him.
Exactly. And we had really, really, really good insurance that paid for 90% of my infertility treatment. It still cost me a ton of money, but we were very lucky that it covered a lot of our stuff. So we started treatment, and I started with IUIs. And the reason why I started with an IUI, I found out later, which they did not tell me in the beginning, was because that's what the insurance required, not because they thought it was going to work. Okay. So I had 2 rounds of IUIs, where I had the injections, I had the monitoring, and we did the IUIs. And it's really like you feel betrayed from the system because they did these IUIs and put me through all these hormones and all these injections and all this early morning monitoring and all these like uncomfortable procedures and mortifying tests and different things where like you're just like public property to who's ever in the room with you. Like there's no privacy. It's like everyone's involved in this baby making business, and it's like you're just like a vessel where they're like doing stuff to you, which like you want to like create. Most people create children like in the privacy of their home through love and intimacy, and like when you're going through fertility, there's none of that. It's just like very medical and sterile and whatever. And they knew it wasn't going to work. Like they knew I was not going to get pregnant from this because most women, which I only found out afterwards, when you're getting pregnant or a person's getting pregnant, their uterine lining needs to be about a 13 minimum. They like it about a 13, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly. Mine wouldn't go above a 4. That can't hold a pregnancy. But we still went ahead and did 2 IUIs. Like they knew that wasn't going to work because it's not physically possible. I did have one doctor said like we just assume everybody's lining is over, is about a 13, but like we don't check. Like people who don't have a problem, we don't know what the lining actually is because we never look because they just got pregnant. Like anybody who's never had fertility treatment, they don't know what
Yeah.
their lining is. But for me, like it turns out I had a problem with my lining. Um, Now there are no doctors in the US who specialize in lining disorders, in uterine lining disorders. It's not a thing. Apparently, it's not a thing. I don't know. When there's nothing else wrong with you. So after my 2 failed IUIs, they decided that they're going to do a DNC to see what's going on, really. Like more like like a DNC and like to clean out the uterus just to see that everything was clean in there and also just to see what was going on. So I went into surgery and I woke up from the surgery and he said, I'm really sorry. This was on March 10th of 2016. So you could do the math when, right? Like it was actually near the end of my whole infertility journey. But he said, I'm sorry, some women just are not meant to be mothers, and some women are just born this way. There's nothing we can do. Like, you'll never be a mother. So obviously, we were devastated. My husband was not coping. We met with Rabbi Gissinger, Alva Shalom, who we were very, very close with, or Shlomo Gissinger from Lakewood. He was very involved in the female reproductive health. He knew everything about it. He knew the doctors. And he told my husband, like, Hashem gives the power for doctors to heal, not to kill. Like, don't listen to him. It doesn't really make a difference, what he says. And I, the whole time, was like, I'm going to have a baby, whatever it takes. Like, I don't really care what he says. We're going to find a way.
Were you considering like surrogacy or adoption or any of that?
So, funny you asked. So, my doctor, who I was seeing at the time, was actually a from doctor, and I was really annoyed at him the way he handled it. When we met with him following the surgery, he handed me a card for a surrogacy agency, and he said, "You should look into surrogacy." And at that point, we were just confused. It wasn't off the table, but I wasn't ready for that, you know? Um, but like it wasn't a foreign idea. Actually, when I was dating my husband, we had talked about adoption because I always wanted to be a mother and I also felt like I had a lot of love to give and I wanted to adopt children. And it wasn't that we discussed about adopting instead of having children, but it was like maybe down the road after I have children of our own, we could adopt some kids also. So like adoption wasn't a foreign concept to us. My husband has a few adopted cousins also. So like it wasn't like this crazy concept of adoption. So surrogacy I didn't really know much about. But I was I don't know if we were prepared for it yet. And we did discuss it, a little bit of it. And actually I had um, somebody who I'm very close with actually offered to be a surrogate for me, if I needed it. So that was very nice. But, so it wasn't like we did kind of think about it, but not like start the process or anything like that. Like I wasn't at that point yet. So, um, at that point we were heavily involved with A Time. It's an infertility organization, for those that don't know. And we would go to their Shabbatones and we would go to be part of their programs during the year or whatever. And at one of our Shabbatones, we met with Rabbi Koenig, who is director of medical affairs in A Time, and he said, "Send me your file. I'm going to a conference in Eretz Yisrael, actually, a medical conference, and I always bring 2 files with me. I'm going to bring your file with me and see if someone at the conference can help you." At the conference, he met Dr. Hugh Taylor from Connecticut, and he said, "I would love to try," which I was thrilled by because I didn't want anybody guaranteeing me they could help. Like, that was also a big thing for me because, like, you're not God. Don't tell me you can help me and then throw me out your office. Like, I needed somebody who was gonna, like, just try. Because every time anybody else who I tried to go to see a doctor, like, they were like, "We can't help you." And turns out that most fertility clinics in America, at least, they will only help people who statistically they think they can help because it's not good for their numbers statistically. And I wasn't statistically going to become a mother, so they didn't want to help me.
Just so you know, Shoshana, I have been told by my doctor several times that we are so blessed to be living in Israel, because if we lived in America, we would be like a lost cause, right? Like, because the amount of experimentation on us and the amount of trial and error and all that, like, we would be a lost cause in America.
Yeah.
So I really hear that. Okay, so what doctor ended up helping you?
So I went to this Dr. Taylor and he's like, "Let's just try some things." He started with an exploratory laparoscopic surgery, to see if I had endometriosis, which newsflash, I didn't. I didn't have any signs of it either. So they
Yeah.
wanted to check to see if maybe that was the cause, but I didn't have it. But they did find was a huge cyst on the inside or the other side of my uterus, so it was kind of like pushing onto it. So like my uterus wasn't right shape. So they got rid of the cyst. We don't know if that was causing anything. And the interesting thing is that like years before I had an MRI done of my uterus, and you could see on it like the cyst pushing into it, and it had just gotten bigger over time. It didn't cause me any pain. I would never have known about it. But they didn't think much of it then because it was so small, but I guess it grew.
Wow.
They got rid of it, and they put a balloon in me to keep the uterus open, because it was used to being smaller because of the cyst, which got infected, and I was already back in New Jersey when it happened, and I was really sick, and I had to rush back in, and they had to take it out. I still remember screaming in pain as they pulled it out. It was so painful, this balloon thing, because I had this big infection from it, but I was fine from it, and he said, let's do IVF. Let's freeze your eggs and let's see what will happen. We'll change the protocol of what we're doing, like the injections, like the medications, and let's see if your lining reacts to it. And we'll freeze some embryos, not eggs, like we'll freeze some embryos, and then if we get your lining working, then we'll implant them. So he was working in connection with another doctor in Cornell, which I'm drawing a blank on his name right now. Um, and they worked together, so I didn't have to travel all the way to Connecticut every day to get treatment. But they were like working hand in hand, and so I had my IVF retrieval. The first time we did it, I didn't have any retrieval. And then I had to do another cycle, and then I had a retrieval because there were no eggs or whatever. I don't think we did like that blast. I don't remember exactly, but they were drugging me up. I was like a crazy person, like a crazy, crazy person on these drugs. Like my husband would come home and find me on the floor, like scrubbing the tile grout with like toothpicks and yeah, I don't know.
Even after ECT.
And yeah, but this was crazy in a different way. Like I made no sense. I remember he was sitting at the table once, just like doing his thing, like nothing. I'm like, "Get out of here!" And he's like, "What?" Like, just leave. Like, what did you do? I'm like, "Nothing, but you're making me crazy. I hear you breathing." Like, I was like a crazy person, like everything, and I was like scrubbing my walls with toothbrushes, and like, nothing made sense. Like, I was like on edge all the time. I walked into my sister-in-law made a bar mitzvah, and like, I went to the bar mitzvah, and the smell of the challah, like, I could still even smell it, and I was like, and everyone's looking at me. I'm like, "I'm not pregnant." "Well, I am, but my uterus is empty. I'm basically pregnant, but there's no baby inside. I can't be here." And I ran out. It was like, I was crazy. Like it made no sense what I was going through. And I just like hopped up on hormones, like so much hormones. Oh my gosh, it was crazy. Um, and we did the retrieval and then they did an ultrasound. I'm like, you know what? There's like 3% chance your lining is a little thicker. It was like a 10. Not as thick as we want it. So like we don't know if it's gonna work, but why don't we just like implant some and see what happens? Like implant some embryos. And honestly, I had no a lot of people when they're going through this are very connected to their embryos. I had no connection to them. I really didn't because it was like protecting myself from them. Like I didn't want a connection with them because I was never becoming a mother, but like deep down, I still was going to figure out how to become a mother. I didn't know if that was through adoption or that was through these embryos. So I was like, okay, you want to implant them? Implant them. So we were going to get them implanted. And my husband's like, can we implant two? They gave me an option to implant two. And I'm like, no, I'm doing one. I'm like, no, I cannot. Like this, that's crazy. Like to implant two, like, why do I need to implant two? He's like begging me the whole way there. I want to implant two. I want to implant two. I'm like thinking about it. I'm like, we went through so much to get to this point, and if we go through this point, they're giving me a 3% chance that the embryos, like that one of them is gonna stick, right? So a 3% chance. So if we put two in, like it gives me at least like a maybe one of them will stick. And if I don't put two in and then none of them stick, like if I put one in and it doesn't stick, I'm gonna be like, why didn't I put two? Maybe I would have gotten one, right? Like there's such a little chance of it even working. I may as well just put the two in. So it's Friday afternoon. I had my implantation day. We got stuck at the bridge. We got stuck in the car of Shabbos. Tunnel was closed. We were on our way back from Manhattan. Tunnel was closed. We could not get back out. And like it's getting close to the Shabbos, close to Shabbos, close to Shabbos. And both tunnels were closed out of New York. Okay. And I had the first appointment of the day. And it is like getting closer and closer. I call the rabbi and he's like, drive as much as you could till Shkia, and then you could get into a cad and drive the rest home because like you're whole. Meanwhile, for some reason, I grabbed my vials of medication when I left the house in the morning. I didn't take a change of clothes. I didn't take syringes, like the needles. I just took the vials of medication. And finally, the tunnel opens and we're driving. And I look at the clock. I'm like, we're not making it. My sister lives in Mistake. I'm like, I call her. I'm like, hi, are you home for Shabbos? Yes. I'm like, we're on our way. She's like, what do you mean you're on our way? She lives in a 2-bedroom apartment with 2 kids. She's like, where are you gonna? I'm like, I will sleep on the couch, but like, we're on our way back from treatment. Like, I had no place to go. Like, we're coming for Shabbos. We pull up. She had already lit candles, but it was before Shkia. She had managed to find me in this like half hour out an apartment around the corner from her to sleep in. Um, and I have these vials of medicine that I need to take tonight and I have no syringes. And I called Vivian Moskowitz from A-Time and I'm like, I have these syringes. I have this vial, but I have no syringes. And we were trying to get like from the pharmacy, a doctor to call in a prescription. I can't find anything. And I'm like, do I need to take them? Is it so important? She's like, listen, you went through all this to have this, you know, this whole cycle. You don't want it to fail and be like, if only I took that medication, it would have worked. I don't even remember. I think it was progesterone and something else. I don't remember. It was two medications. So Zacharia, my husband's on the phone with Rabbi Koenig. I'm on the phone with Vivian. We're trying to figure out how I'm getting these syringes, and there's like 5 minutes left to Shkia. And finally, we hang up the phone with being, okay, there's somebody from A-Time who just started a cycle of IVF. Here's their address. They don't know you're coming. Here's their address. Go knock on their door and see if they have any syringes for you. Okay, so I'm not supposed to be walking. I'm supposed to be laying down with my feet up because I just had this transfer. Hire is like by somewhere. He drove somewhere, parked the car, and he's in his jeans and his t-shirt, and he's like trying to get into the apartment building. It's locked. So he's waiting. I'm waiting, waiting. Somebody comes to throw out the garbage. He runs in. He knocks on the door, and he's like, "Hi, I'm from Aton. They gave me your address. He told me that you just started a cycle. My wife needs a syringe. We don't know who these people are." And the lady was so nice. Apparently, we had met at a Shabbaton. I didn't know who she was. I still honestly don't know who she is. So she kind of knew who I was. And she's like, I haven't actually started the injection, so I'm not sure which needle I have, but there's a lady around the corner who's a nurse, and she's been helping with my injections. So why don't I walk you over there? So she walked my husband over to her, and this nurse said, you can use that needle, but it's really too thick. You really want the thinner needle for the injection. It's not as painful. So my husband's an ER doctor, and he has needles. Let me see if I can find one because he wasn't home. He was at shul. So she goes and rummages through his stuff. She's like, I can't find one, but she can use this one. It'll be fine. So Zach walks back to my sister. It's like a 20-minute walk, and we're having a meal. And all of a sudden, there's a knock on the door, and this nurse looked up my sister's address and came knocking on the door. She's like, my husband came home. He got me the right needle, and literally was only for my comfort. Like, the other needle would have done the job. It would have been just more painful. And she came to drop off this needle just because it shouldn't hurt me so much, which is like Mikal Chaisal, like who does that? Like she didn't, he's like, I'm
Wow.
a stranger. It wasn't a close walk. Like it was February. It was cold. Like it was not, it was a crazy, exciting thing. And that Sunday actually was the Shasathon. It was just like whole connection, the Shasathon, which is the
Wow.
8-time fundraiser thing that we're very
Wow.
involved in. So, anyways, newsflash, it worked. So the embryos took. Not one embryo, but both of them. They both took, and I was pregnant with twins. And I remember they called me. I was home from work at that point. It was like in the afternoon. I had already gotten home from work. And she's like, I never, ever, I'm one of those, I feel like I'm like the only person who went through fertility who never took a pregnancy test. I never took a pregnancy test. I'm like, what's the point? It's such a waste of money. Like, why would I take a pregnancy test? I'm obviously not pregnant. Like, there's no point. It's such a waste of money. I never took them. I know some people take 100 of them. Like, why? So I
I
never,
haven't taken a pregnancy test in 3-4 years.
yeah, so I never, exactly, like, what's the point? So I didn't take a pregnancy test. And they called me to tell me that I was pregnant. And I remember just like holding the phone. She's like, you there? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, what did you say? And she's like, it worked. I don't remember exactly what she said, but she's like, it worked. You're pregnant. Congratulations. We're so happy for you. Blah, 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 whatever she said. And I hung up the phone. I just like frozen. It was like, I was like so shell shocked. Like it didn't hit me. It didn't register. And then I called my husband up at work. I'm like, are you sitting down? And I'm like, I'm pregnant. And he's like, huh? And then we came home and we went out to eat to celebrate. And I remember just like being like in such a daze. It was such a weird feeling, like, to be pregnant, and like I didn't understand like what to make of it. Like, what does this mean? Like, how like what how's this possible? Like, it was such a weird feeling. Like, I didn't even allow myself to celebrate because it was just like so strange to be at this time, like to be pregnant. Like, I didn't even know what that meant. It was weird.
We will be right back. I think Shoshana's story is just incredible. Um, it is so inspiring. We haven't even gotten to her breast cancer diagnosis and how she just coped with everything. If you need an episode of hope, this is it, guys. Shoshana is really a role model. It's such an honor to know her, to be friends with her. Shoshana, thank you so much for everything that you do and for always cheering me on and just really being such a positive force in my life. I just want to remind you all to follow and subscribe. This podcast is on Apple and Spotify and now YouTube. So subscribe, follow, give it a rating, leave a review. I would love to hear from you guys. I'd love to hear your feedback. So please do so. Also, I just wanted to remind you that we do have sponsorship and ad opportunities. So you can always be in touch about that. And I work as a content creator and social media manager. So if you are interested in learning more about my services, please check out tales-of.com and reach out to me. You can reach out at Tamar at tales-of.com. And I'd love to speak to you about working together in terms of content creation or social media management or influencer marketing. And yeah, get excited for the rest of the episode. It is quite exciting.
I got pregnant, but it wasn't easy.
Wow.
It was a
So,
rough bunch of months ahead.
how was your pregnancy?
So I bled for the first 12 weeks.
Wow.
And on the one hand, I had people telling me I need to be on bed rest. And on the other hand, my doctor was very anti bed rest because it could cause blood clots or whatever. So he's like, really, there's nothing to do. The first 12 weeks, like, if you're going to miscarry, you're going to miscarry. It doesn't matter what you do, as much as they say this, studies show it doesn't make a difference. So I was very sick. Like, I was very, very nauseous. I didn't actually vomit, but had very bad morning sickness, just like nausea. I couldn't brushing my teeth. I would gag. I was just like not well. And my back, I had such bad back pain that they thought at one point that I was like having an infection because it was so bad. And this is like, do you understand? Like, in the beginning of pregnancy, like the embryos are like a dot. Like, it's amazing how much havoc these tiny little things cause on your body. It's really fascinating to me when I think about it. It's like the craziest thing. And then it steadied out and I was okay.
Wait, when did
And
you
then
find out that you were going to have twins, though?
basically from the beginning, like my first ultrasound,
Like,
like
was
that
that
part wasn't,
shocking?
so that part wasn't shocking as much because we did implant two. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Like, we implanted two. So I don't remember being shocked that it was twins because we implanted two. So it was like they both worked. I don't know. I don't remember it being like, oh my God, we're having two. Like,
Okay.
we didn't tell people we were having twins. Um, that I didn't tell people. I just told people. I told people I was pregnant at like 12 weeks. About 12 weeks, whatever. I don't remember exactly. And I mean, I was the youngest. I'm surprised more people didn't figure out that I was having twins. But it became a joke in the family, like, how many kids is she having? And like my husband would say shvatim. So like I was having shvatim. So like it was like people were taking bets it was 2 or 3. Like that's what was going on. I was
Wow.
big. But people were still convinced because I would show them an ultrasound and would only show them one. So like my siblings were convinced I was having one because I would only show them one, but like they don't know twins that you can have an ultrasound with just one picture on there. So that was kind of fun not to tell people I was having twins. So my parents knew, my in-laws knew, like a few people, very few people knew. And at
Yeah.
27 weeks, I went into labor. So that was fun. So
I did not realize that.
I went into labor 8 times when I was pregnant between 27 weeks and 32 weeks. So not a lot of time. I went into labor 8 times and I was hospitalized each of those times. The first time I went into labor, I didn't even know I was in labor. I just went for like a regular checkup I was seeing a maternal fetal medicine doctor, and he's like, "You don't look well." I'm like, "Huh?" And he hooked me up and he's like, "You're in labor." And I was 27 weeks and I was in panic mode. I was hysterical. I'm like, I cannot be losing these babies. Like, I mean, technically at 27 weeks, they were viable and like they could have survived, but I was such a mess. I remember calling my brother who's living in Israel at the time, like, go daven, go to get breakfast. And I'm not that kind of person. Some people are. I'm not. I don't run from rabbi to rabbi for breakfast, but I was like, go for your kid, like, go do something. Like, I needed someone to do something. So I was in a hospital and I finally they were able to, like, and it was really scary. That first time was the scariest time that I went into labor because they couldn't stop it at first. And they had called in the NICU team and they called in the specialist and they kept telling me all the time, like, they're too small to be delivered vaginally. You're going to have a C-section. And like, they were like literally ready to like prepping me for surgery. And then my labor stopped. And it was like a miracle. And
Wow.
then I went into labor again, like, if like 5 days later, and they gave me the injections to like speed up their lungs and whatever. And meanwhile, my husband's youngest brother was getting married, and the uproar was that Shabbos, and I was in the hospital. I made it to the wedding, Shabbos Shavuot, because I was back in the hospital. So everybody knew, which was fine, whatever. Then by the Shabbos Shavuot, they were doing it up in Tannersville, New York. And it was like a big party that I actually helped arrange with the Kala's family, with the Kala's mother. I arranged all the logistics. I'm very good with these things. I arranged everything with her, and then I didn't even show up because I was in the hospital. So they discharged me Erev Shabbos. Friday afternoon, the doctor said, you can leave the hospital, but you have to stay nearby. And there's a hotel down the block. Go into that hotel. So we check into this hotel. My sister had dropped the food on the way up to Tannersville, so I had like food and whatever. I mean, light candles, and my husband's like, let's go. Or maybe we didn't light candles. I don't know. Did we light candles in the hotel? Maybe we had electric candles. I don't remember. I was like, let's go out for a walk, like in the hotel. And we walk out, and there's a whole group of Hasidim. And it was like,
Wow.
what's going on? So apparently, this group of Hasidim, funny enough, were from Bonei Olam. They worked for Bonei Olam, and every year they would get together in the summertime, and they would have like a Shabbaton. And Hasidim, let me tell you, they know how to make Shabbos away from home. They rented a separate room just for food. They had enough food to feed like 100 more people. And they were just like, come join us. Here's cheesecake. Here's challah. Here's deli. And like, there was like a whole party. And I'm like, do you understand? Like, we waited 10 years for these babies. I'm like, Boney Olam, which I was not very involved in Boney Olam at all. But still, it was like, they're another infertility organization. And there was like, it was a weird connection in a weird way. And they were like so happy for me. So we spent Shabbos with a group of Hasidim. But anyways, between 27 and 32 weeks, I literally went into labor 8 times. And apparently that was a record for my doctor. Yay, me, another record broken. And then I stopped. And then I wasn't going into labor. And then I was good. And every time I'd walk into the doctor's office, my doctor would fist pump me. He's like, you're still here. I'm like, yay. Okay. And then at 36 weeks, I'm like, I am done. I can't move. I forget what it's called, symphysis pubis or something, where my pelvic basically split into two and I couldn't walk and I was in a wheelchair or shuffling. Like I could barely walk. I was in agonizing pain. This eugongus thing, I don't understand how I didn't like topple over. Like gravity doesn't take effect. Like I was eugongus and I was miserable. And I was like, I walked into that office. It was on Success. And I said to the doctor, I'm like, you take these babies out of me or I'm taking them out myself. Like I am done. And afterwards,
Wow.
I regret that I was like so upset. Like I just wanted them out because they ended up in the NICU and I felt guilty about that. But like at the end of the day, Hashem's in control and like he obviously wanted them out. They couldn't induce me. They wouldn't induce me before 38 weeks because legally they're not allowed, which I'm thankful for, but I was so miserable. Anyways, the next day on Shmini Atzeres, I went into labor. My husband was at Mincha, and I went into full-blown labor, like, within 10 minutes. I was, like, doubled over. I couldn't move. Um, and our Rav said, "Just drive, like, don't call Hatzalah, because Hatzalah would have to take me to, like, a closer hospital." And he's like, "You could call a taxi, but if they're gonna be more than 5 minutes, then just drive." So my husband ended up driving me, like, an hour away the
But I said
hospital.
he was at shul.
He was at shul, he came back. I mean, it was just mincha, it wasn't, like, long, but, like,
Oh,
he
okay.
wasn't home, he came back, I don't know, like, 15 minutes later, and he drove me to the hospital. It was, like, an hour drive. It was a 3-day yazif just like this year, um, and I was in the hospital for 17 hours in labor, and my babies just, collided in the birthing canal, and they didn't wanna come out. Well, Yehuda didn't wanna come out, my oldest. He was very comfortable there. And Aliyah, who was the one who always gave me problems my whole pregnancy, jumping everywhere, because every time I went to the hospital, they hooked me up to monitors and they could see, and she was always jumping off the monitor. He never budged. And if you know my kids today, like, it's the same thing. Yehuda just, like, barely moves, and Aliyah's, like, flying all over the place. So it's very, like, it makes so much sense. Like, it's so weird to know, like, their personality started in utero. It's very strange. But, like, Aliyah was, like, literally trying to get ahead of him in the birthing canal, and they kind of jammed, and they put me, and they were fine. But I started going through distress, so they had to do an emergency C-section. And I was fighting this because, going back to my pudendal neuralgia, there are some studies and cases that show that if you give birth vaginally, it could actually heal it. It's not like a huge chance, but, like, there are chances. And I really wanted this vaginal delivery, but wasn't meant to be. And my doctor's like, "You really need this C-section." So after 17 hours, I agreed, and I had a C-section, and my babies were born on Simchas Torah, um, which was another crazy thing, because for us, like, Simchas Torah was such a hard time always, such a hard time. I didn't go to shul at all. My husband obviously had to go to shul because for part of it, but then he would come home for the kafos. Like, anybody who doesn't have kids knows how hard it is. Like, Simchas Torah is such a kid-centric yantif, and, like, everyone's watching their kids. Our husbands are dancing with kids. Like, it's about
Yeah.
giving candy to the kids. Like, nobody's giving candy to me. And it's just like a miserable hag
I
when you
say
want kids.
Simchas Torah, Purim, and Giddy's birthday are the three hardest days of the year.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's a really, really hard day. And then my kids being born on Simchas Torah, it was like such, like, a full circle thing. And it was like the whole world now is celebrating their birthday. It's just, like, such an amazing feeling. Now they're Mid Aliyah, it's actually the day after Simchas Torah, but, like, it's still like Simchas Torah is still their birthday. And it's just
For
like a
sure.
beautiful, and it was a 3-day yontif, and I gave birth to them on a Friday. So nobody knew I had babies. Like, no one knew I had kids. They didn't know I gave birth. Well, my sister-in-law figured it out because I didn't show up for the meal. So they knew I had a baby, but they didn't know what. And I did not call my mother. My mother has an answering machine, and I was able to call her and leave a message that I had baby. But she knows we're having twins. I didn't think it was fair to tell her and not my in-laws. So we
Oh.
did not tell anybody. And by the way, it was the best thing. Nobody could bother me. Nobody could call me. Nobody could come visit. I had quiet, and it was amazing. But my husband was really upset that he didn't get his big Shalom Zachar that he had dreamed of. He waited 10 years for these babies, and he wanted Shalom Zachar. Well, the hospital we went to is right by Highland Park. Highland Park has a big Jewish frum community, and somebody heard that I had given birth, and there was this couple that just had twins after 10 years, and this person in Highland Park put on a huge Shalom Zachar for my husband. My husband didn't know anybody, but there was a big party, and it was very exciting. And my husband ended up making a Shalom Zachar the following week, because, fun fact, you don't actually need to make Shalom Zachar the first week. It's supposed to be before the bris. And the bris was pushed off anyways. So he was going to make a post-bris party because he wanted it, but he didn't need to. He actually made a legitimate Shalom Zachar the following week, and there were like 150 people or 200 people at the Shalom Zachar or more. I have no idea because I wasn't there. But yeah, so I
Baruch
became
Hashem.
I became a mother. It was a crazy, like, it was so
Was the bris
surreal.
also very a lot of people?
Yeah, so my kids, Yehuda ended up in the NICU, like, shortly after birth because he was breathing funny. And then on day 3, they discharged him and me and Eliana. All of us went home together on day 3. On day 4, actually day 5 in the morning, I had my first pediatrician appointment. Went to the doctor. My babies, both their temperatures were low 90s, which is not good. So my pediatrician sent me straight back to the NICU, and I cried so much. I literally, like, remember seeing my tears making a puddle on the floor. Like, I'm not exaggerating when I say that. There was literally tears on the floor. I was just so upset. Like, I came home with them, and, like, now they're, like, back in the NICU. But in a way, it was actually such a bracha that they both were sent back, because usually twins are not kept together with these things. Like, it just doesn't happen. But, like, they'll both be in the NICU with them. One comes home before the other. And I wasn't going home without my babies. So I moved into the Beaker Holland house down the block. And I had a C-section, so I wasn't allowed to drive either. I would walk from the Beaker Holland house to the NICU, to the hospital, up take the elevator up and then walk. It took me like 25 minutes the first few days to walk because I could barely walk, but it really helped. Like they say to walk after surgery. I was forced to walk and it really healed me. And they were in the NICU for 10 days. So they were more than 10 days old at that point. Or 11 days in the NICU. They came home and they were 2.5 weeks old by the bris. And we set up for 200 people and there was literally not even a donut left over, like nothing. So it was a pretty big bris. And it was like they do them in America. We have the bris at like 7:30 in the morning. It's not like here in Israel where it's like 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock in the afternoon where people are more awake. Like it was a big deal. It was. I mean, my house was a toy store, like the gift shop. Like I got hundreds of gifts and it was really an amazing, incredible
I'm
feeling.
looking forward.
I cannot wait. I cannot wait to be there for you tomorrow. You don't know. Like I can't wait. It's an
um,
important thing. It's a crazy thing. Like I can't. And I proved those doctors wrong because, like my husband always says, the doctors are right. You didn't give birth to a baby, you gave birth to two. So there you go.
during your pregnancy, how was your migraines? How were your emotions? Like, how was it just dealing with all of that while you were pregnant?
So I had a miserable pregnancy. Like I was really miserable. I was in a lot of pain. But emotionally, I was like on a high. And I was like, everything was healed when my kids were born. It was amazing. And now, like, kids are not like the answer to your mental health struggles, but like a lot of the things I was dealing with was because I was dealing with infertility. So, like they are, yeah, it was amazing. It was
Amazing.
amazing.
Yehuda
Yeah.
and Eliana.
Yes. Yehuda and Aliana. We pick our names for
Beautiful.
their meanings. So, yeah.
Wow. So, okay. And then moving on from this incredible birth story, you made Aliyah like when they were babies.
So we had decided to make Aliyah a year before. Basically, my husband always wanted to make Aliyah, and I was like, no, like I said, it's a nice place to visit. So he literally took that as serious, and we came to Israel 8 times in the 10 years we were married. Or 7 or 8 times, I don't know. And we would just come like anytime we were able to get away, we'd come to Israel. And after like the time the doctor said like you'll never have kids, I'm like, why are we like? And we were coming to Israel, just like felt like home. I'm like, we should make Aliyah. He's like, really? I'm like, yeah, we should. Like, why are we here? Like, what are we staying in America for? So he's like, okay. And I just started the paperwork and I started the process of making Aliyah. We had planned to make Aliyah in 2017, August 2017. And then I got pregnant with my miracle babies. So I pushed
Mm.
off Aliyah a year. And everybody, when I say everybody, I'm literally like, I don't think there was even one person who thought we were going to go ahead with our plans of making Aliyah. Like, I think everybody thought, now that I have my kids, I'm staying in America. And I'm like, okay, Hashem, thank you for giving my kids. I'm not coming home. Like, that doesn't make any sense. So we made Aliyah with 10-month-old twins. It was a crazy thing. It was a crazy time. It was the best decision ever. I had zero regrets. I'm so much happier here. I'm so much more me here.
Wow.
Like, and it's also like weird because like we have like two separate lives. Like we were married in America without kids for 10 years, and then we made Aliyah when they were babies. So it's like in America we lived without kids was like one life, and like here we live a totally different life. Like I'm a different person. Like people like half the things I have here or do here is like as a mother, I didn't do there. Like most people don't know about my shoe collection. Like that was a big part of my life. I had over 200 pairs of shoes that I got rid of, and I still brought over 100 pairs of shoes with me when I made Aliyah. Like I was a crazy shoe lady, and I had a whole room in my house that was just shoe decor. Okay, that's not you don't know that because I don't have time for shoes, and I can't wear them in Israel like I did in America. Like silly things like that. Whatever. It was
How
like
do you wear heels though with all of your pain?
so I actually wore like 3 to 4 inch heels every day of my pregnancy. I believe that heels help your back. I didn't really have back issues. I just had like when I was pregnant, I had back issues. But when you wear heels, fun fact, your back stands straight because you're forced to. Otherwise, you're going to fall over and smash your face. So it causes you to stand straight and have better posture. So I actually was more comfortable in heels for years and years and years. And until I made Aliyah, I wore heels every single day to work. And I
Wow.
only owned like 1 or 2 pairs of sneakers that were flats. By the way, they didn't own anything that was flat.
Wow.
Oh.
Interesting.
So when I made Aliyah, I also gave up my career. I stopped for reporting. My husband gave up his job at Kedem, and we were like, we are coming and making Aliyah. Hashem knows where I live. Hashem knows my address, and everyone said, Parnasa, you have to work. The Parnasa can be taken from you in America the same way it can be taken from you in Israel. Hashem knows your address wherever you live, and I believe that very, very strongly. And I've seen different things in our lives with Parnasa, like doesn't matter where you live. And I made Aliyah with no job. I also was like, I'm raising my kids. Like I waited 10 years for them. I didn't want to work. But I also told him, I was like, well, make it work. Like if I need to go back to work, I'll figure something out. He got a job pretty much right away. He was working cash advance at that point. And I was home with my kids and I loved every single second of it. My kids stayed home until they were 3 with me and I loved it. I enjoyed every single minute. I didn't relate to people who complained. about having their kids home. I had two people would say, well, you have two of them, so they have each other. They had each other, but they had each other to like make bigger messes and pull each other's hair out and like make each other crazy. Like I loved it. I'd be taking them to the park every day, went to music classes. Like I thoroughly enjoyed being a mother. It was like what I was meant to be. It was amazing. And then in 2020, I miraculously got pregnant on my own. And I was so sick from it. I was like on the couch. I could barely move. And it was right when COVID hit. So it was like perm time. I was like a few weeks pregnant then. And it was like crazy. I was like in disbelief and shock. Like my body, like it never did this before. How am I pregnant? I was so excited. And I calculated my due date and I was like due on my grandfather's first yard site where I was very close with. And I was like, Sadie's watching over me. It was like such a like a good feeling. And then nobody wanted to see me. They're like, you don't really need to be seen. It's COVID. Like there's nothing we can do anyways. Like there's no reason. I was terrified. I started taking progesterone just because like it doesn't hurt. I was like, maybe it would help. What? I don't know. It wouldn't have hurt. Like I was speaking to like my connections in America, whatever. And then I had a miscarriage.
At what week?
I think it was like 10 weeks long at that point.
Wow.
And I was like starting or spotting, and I told my husband, I'm like, I don't know. And then all of a sudden one day I woke up, I'm like, I'm not pregnant anymore. Like I had no symptoms. Like the fetus is still in me, but like I knew it was gone. And it was really a devastating time. And I had to go to get a DNC, and like it was COVID and the beginning of COVID, and everyone was terrified and everything was closed. And my husband was like, I'll wait for you in the parking lot with my kids, my twins, who were 2.5 at that point. And I'm like, this is crazy. And my friends were saying about Pesach, and I'm like, I'm going to be alone and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I can't even deal with this. I'm having a miscarriage. My friend's like, what? You're having a miscarriage? She's like, where are your kids? I'm like, they're going to wait in the parking lot while I go in for a DNC, which is such crazy. Makes no sense. She's like, you're crazy. Just bring them to me. I'm like, but it's COVID. She's like, so
Who was it?
my friend Sarah Fine, she took my kids
Wow.
to watch it and ended up keeping me overnight. It was Erev B'digas Chametz night. Okay, so it was a day and a half before Pesach. I had the DNC. I get up and they're like, we have to keep you overnight from the DNC. And Zachariah ran home to like go shopping. We didn't have food because I was like sick. And I was like, he went to Yesh. There was a line out the door at 3 o'clock in the morning. He waited outside for 2 hours to be able to get inside because they were only letting like 10 people in the time, the store or something. I don't remember. He got the food, shopping, whatever, came home, unloaded, came back to Hadassah to pick me up. Then we picked up my kid. He came home, went to sleep, and I finished koshering my kitchen. Like there was no time to do anything. Like I didn't have time to grieve or process or think or heal from the surgery I just had because like it was Pesach and COVID. Like nobody was doing anything because
Um,
like the whole world shut down. It was a crazy, crazy time.
oh my
Um,
God. Wow.
yeah. So that was a little traumatic. And then in August I had another miscarriage actually. That one I was just like
Wait,
six
this
months.
August or August 2020?
No, that following August, in 2020. Um,
Wow. And then when did
yeah.
you get breast cancer?
So the following year, August 2021, we were home. We had just come back from America we were in America in the summer. My sister had gotten married. We were there. We were going anyways. We usually go back in the summer. And we had to go straight from the airplane into Bidud, into, quarantine because of COVID. And after, I don't remember how many days, they test you to see if you have COVID, and then you could get out early if you don't have COVID. Anyways, my husband had gone to shul Friday night, even though we were in Bidud, which is whatever, it's fine. And apparently got COVID from somebody there. So when we went to take the test, we didn't know he had COVID. And the doctor calls him up on Monday morning. He's like, or Sunday morning, whenever it was. And he's like, how are you feeling? He's like, I'm fine. He's like, well, you have COVID. So we're like, oh, okay. And then meanwhile, like the airline, like the Misrata Briot is trying to try and figure out like who on the airplane had COVID because apparently whatever. That was a whole nother story. But during this time, so my kids ended up getting COVID, and then I got COVID during that week. It was like the end of August last year. I think it was like the end of like one of the last weeks of August. During this time that we had COVID, I had a bloody discharge from my right side, or my right breast, and it lasted, I think, 3 or 4 days. It wasn't long. I had COVID. Nobody would see me. I called my friend who's been a nurse for like 50 years, and she's like, well, even though you're not breastfeeding now, like you still have milk ducts and whatever. Your kid might have like kicked you, which is very possible. Like my kids accidentally or elbow you or whatever. It could have like you could have had a bruise and you're bleeding. Like if it goes away, I wouldn't be concerned. So I'm like, okay, great. It went away literally. It was 3 or 4 days. It was gone. So I didn't think much about it. Right after Sukkot, I had my nephew's bar mitzvah in America, and I went to America for a week by myself. for my nephew's bar mitzvah. The best thing that Hashem gave me before my like all hell broke loose. I went to America by myself. I went to the Simcha. I went away with my friends overnight. I like lived it up. It was amazing. I come back. The week I came back was the last week in October, and I had an appointment with the breast surgeon because of my infertility, I'm considered high risk for breast cancer. I don't have any family history, but because of all the hormones I've been on, it's controversial whether you're considered high risk. Depends who you ask. But the infertility doctors say you're high risk. My oncologist says it has no connection. So do with it what you will. And I mentioned to her, so I had my yearly appointment scheduled the last week in October. So I was like, I didn't try to push up the appointment because I knew it wouldn't happen, and there was like no symptoms anyways. So I mentioned him like, by the way, like 2 months ago or 6 weeks ago, whatever it was, I had some bloody discharge, and just FYI, there was nothing. She did an exam, no lump, no symptoms, no anything. She's like, let's be on the safe side. I'm going to send you for an ultrasound and mammogram. I was 36. I had no family history, no anything, no reason to think anything. And so I got the appointment. It was like 10 days later, whatever. And we were in the hospital waiting for the appointment. And my husband, I don't remember what happened. He's like, why are you like acting like this? I'm like, they're checking to see if I have cancer. He's like, you don't have cancer. Come on. So jokes on him because not jokes on him, but it took until December like 8th, I think it was, to get my official diagnosis. But I was diagnosed with stage 1B HER2 positive breast cancer, which is considered one of the most aggressive breast cancers out there. But on the flip side, it's also one of the most treatable cancers today because there's a drug that wasn't like 20 years ago. This kind of cancer with a death sentence. People didn't live more than 5 years, no matter what stage you're at. But now there's a drug called Herceptin that's given for this specific kind of breast cancer, and it's very treatable and very grueling. It's a very grueling process. So I had a mastectomy, I had surgery, and then I started chemo and for 12 weeks every week, and then I had Herceptin every 3 weeks for a full year. And it was awful. It was awful. And I always said the difference between like breast cancer and like infertility. Like infertility is something that like it just like kind of creeps up on you. It's not like one day you don't have infertility and the next day I have infertility. It's like a progression. It's like slowly, it's like that friend who never leaves. I actually wrote something on about this once. Like somebody just like comes to visit and they're supposed to leave, but then they never leave. And everywhere you turn is like there's infertility. Like the guest is everywhere. And it's like, can you just leave? I have in a letter, Dear Infertility, and I write about how you just like came like you're like an uninvited guest and you just came and you just like welcome to my life and like everywhere I turn. And then you're like in my bed, on my pillow. Like I didn't ask you to like be so close in my life or like like every simcha, like infertility is there. But it's like something that slowly creeps up on you. On the other hand, cancer just like boom, it's there. It's like there's no like slowly creeping up. It's like one day you're fine, and the next day all hell breaks loose. Your life stops, and you're like frozen in time. But like everyone around you is still going on their merry life and doing their stuff. And it's like, hello, I'm dying over here, and they're like, yeah, I got to go pick up the kids from school. I'm like, no, but I'm dying. Like I have cancer. Like I don't understand how you can be like worried about your kid, friend having a fallout with their friend or whatever it is when I'm like had breast cancer. And it's like a very different kind of struggle. And on the other hand, cancer is a very acceptable struggle. And it's weird because like cancer, there's tons of organizations there. I got so many gifts. And I'm not complaining about this. This is amazing. I got about 8 cozy blankets, at least 20 pairs of socks, candles, food platters, sweaters, robes, slippers, lotions. I mean, I got so many gifts and I felt the love and I appreciate so much. And on the other hand, with infertility, like nobody's sending you this stuff. Maybe when you have a miscarriage, somebody hears I'll send you something, or every few years, somebody like there's not this. And when I like infertility is exhausting, nobody sent me up a meal train. Cancer, I didn't cook for 7 months, and it's amazing what people did for me. And I'm like, there's so much like love and support when someone's going through cancer. But when it comes to infertility and halavai, mental health, there's nothing. Like there's now a little bit more for mental health, and there's definitely more about infertility, but you don't get that support that you get. And my husband says like cancer was probably the easiest thing we've gone through in that sense, which is so crazy because it's like also kind of scariest because like you're literally fighting for your life. And you don't have a choice. I didn't choose to go through chemo and like get so sick, and I'm suffering daily from the side effects of cancer till today. And it's 2.5 years since my last chemo. It's almost 2 years since my last cancer treatment. And I have terrible neuropathy in both my hands and feet. I have terrible joint pain, exhaustion, different things, memory problems, all from the chemo. And chemo is the worst thing that was ever invented. But on the other hand, it's also saving your life. So like you don't have a choice. But it's awful. But I also have so much support from it and so much love and acceptance. And it's very like stark consciousness. I don't know if it's sad or just the reality of what it is. People want to help when you have cancer. And honestly, it's also very hard because I'm not the kind who likes to take help. I don't like people, you know, helping me. Like, I don't want to feel like I'm a Nebuch case. I don't want people to like need to take care of me. Like, I like to take care of you. I like to give people gifts. Like, my love language is gifts and not so much as like, I love receiving gifts. I do. And it doesn't have to be a diamond ring. It could be, an iced coffee or whatever, like a chocolate bar. Like, that shows me the same. But even more so, I love giving to people. Like, it really like fills my heart, and to be on the receiving end is one of the hardest thing. And I always say like accepting help is its own nisayon. It's a whole separate nisayon to accept help because it's not a sign of weakness. Like people like to use this phrase, which I freaking hate. God only gives you what you can handle. It's like, F you, no, they don't. Like, it's not true. Hashem doesn't give you what you can handle. Because what are you saying is like people who like fall apart or fail, like they lost. Or like, let's say never found he dies of whatever they're struggling with, like they failed. No, they didn't fail. That's what that was what it was supposed to be. But Hashem gives you what you can grow from. That's what I believe. And you could decide if you want to grow from it or not. Like it's your choice. Like you get to make that decision. If you want to grow from your struggles or if you want to just like curl up in a ball and fall apart, which by the way, I tried that. We talked about it, like my depression or whatever. I tried that. Doesn't work very well. But I have to choose it. And when I was diagnosed with cancer, I had to choose happiness. I had to choose how to get through it without falling apart. I wasn't going back on antidepressants, and I knew I was at risk. I was at a huge risk of falling back into it because like it's one of the most shocking things to get diagnosed at 36 with no family history, barely any symptoms. And what I also found out is that like only about 10% of people diagnosed with breast cancer have a family history. Most people with breast cancer, there is no family history. There's nothing. It's just like the mere fact that you have breasts, like you are at risk. And as an
Yeah.
Ashkenazi Jew, your risk is also higher in general compared to the rest of the population. So it's just part of the facts of life. And it's really hard. And another thing that they say, like, that it takes a village, like whatever that means. I realized through cancer that like Hashem doesn't like leave you alone in whatever he sends you. Like Hashem gives you what you can handle and it takes a village. All these quotes which I didn't really love, but I finally got to understand like Hashem set me up to be in this community that I live in currently in Beit Shemesh and Mishtafayim, which is the most amazing community, and everybody wants to help. Like if I was living somewhere else, I don't know that I would have had the same support because I didn't have this community. And the second that people found out I had cancer, I remember I was in the park and someone's like, "What somebody making you dinner?" I'm like, "No." She's like, "Well, you shouldn't be cooking." And I hadn't started treatment yet or anything. She's like, "You need to start." And like a meal train, I had a 30-day meal train rotation. You understand what that means? 30 days. It was about 40 women on this meal train, maybe even more. And they cooked for me once a month for 7 months. And that's like crazy. It was like a whole system. And it was like the amount of food I got and the love I got and support I got. And like if I needed something picked up, my kids picked up a ride, whatever, people were checking in on me like to make sure I was okay. Like that's the village. Hashem set that up. And it was on me to accept that and to realize that every one of these people was from Hashem. And every time someone knocked on my door, it was Hashem saying, "I'm here for you. I'm going to hug you." This is Hashem's way of sending down his love to me through everybody. Like they're all his messengers. And it's like, I must accept Hashem everywhere. And like, I really truly believe like every time someone knocked on the door, it was like Hashem sending you a hug. And like, I have to recognize that. Like, I could be like, "I'm an Ebachis. Why are you sending me food?" I could be like, "Thank you, Hashem, for sending me another hug." And that's really, what I feel that
Mhm.
was. So,
So, how did you stay so strong in your Muna through all of this? Like, your life seems like so. It just, I'm gonna be honest, it seems so hard. Like, how are you so strong?
so I grew up in the base ecosystem, and one of the problems I have with the base ecosystem is that we're taught to believe that Emunah means that we just accept whatever Hashem sends us, and we don't ask why, and we don't complain, and we just accept it and move on. But if you think about Tehillim and David HaMelech, what he wrote in Tehillim, he's complaining and crying to Hashem about all his sorrows and all his pains. He's not saying, "Thank you, Hashem, thank you, Hashem." I mean, he is thanking Hashem, but he's also complaining. And once I realized that I'm allowed to be angry at Hashem and I'm allowed to, like, that's when my Amuna, like, that is Amuna. Amuna is being angry at Hashem. Amuna is crying and yelling. And I have no problem doing that. Like, I will scream and cry and curse out to Hashem. And if I didn't have that relationship with him, I wouldn't be able to do it. So my Amuna is that I have a relationship with Hashem. Otherwise, wouldn't be turning to him. to yell at him, like, why are you doing this to me? And I'm able to talk it out with him and give myself the time to accept what he's putting me through at that moment. So, like, I will give myself a day or 2 days to be angry and to cry and to yell and to scream. And I might do that like multiple times throughout a month, but like, I don't let myself do that for weeks at a time. Like, I'll give myself a time limit of a day or two to be really angry and cry it out and yell and whatever. And then I accept it. And accepting it doesn't mean that I like it or I want it or I love it or whatever. It just means that I accept that this is what Hashem decided for some reason, which I don't understand and I don't know and I don't want. But this is what Hashem wants me to do right now. And I could choose how to go through it. And I went through cancer by partying through it. Like, literally, I had parties. Okay. I got diagnosed and we sponsored the Kiddush. Like, thank you, Hashem, for cancer. I don't know why I'm thanking you, but I'm supposed to be thanking you. So thank you, Hashem. I didn't understand what I was thanking him for. And then the day, like the week before my mastectomy, where they literally amputated a body part. It's not just like removing the cancer. It's a full body part, which people seem to don't understand that a mastectomy is literally an amputation. Like, they don't make a big deal out of it. It's like, if someone said I'm amputating your arm, people would be like freaking out. But for some reason, when it's breast cancer and we're having a mastectomy,
I know that you are a very strong advocate of people getting checked. Is there anything in specific in terms of that you'd want to share with the audience?
so I've spoken to a lot of doctors and I've spoken to my oncologist since then. Like, is there anything that people should be doing to help prevent? And one of the biggest things in the frum world, as from people, we don't get enough vitamin D. It's like a common thing that people know about.
Mm.
And low vitamin D actually makes your risk of breast cancer so much higher. And one of the things that I've told all my sisters and sister-in-laws and friends, take your vitamin D. It actually will lower your risk for breast cancer. Whether you think you are at risk or not, every single person, by the mere, like I said, by the mere fact of having breasts, you are at risk. So take vitamin D, like, and have your vitamin D levels checked, because that can actually lower your risk. And other than that, just do your hishtalas. I don't believe in doing more than that, and also believe every single person's hishtalas is different. So you have to figure out what your stylist is as far as staying on top of your health, and do that. Like, take care of your health, do what you can.
It just sounds like a lot. Like, how do you manage it?
So just live with it. It's a very good question. I actually don't take anything for my pain. Nothing really works for me. So I basically just live with chronic pain. I walk for exercise. I used to be much more into exercise. I used to be more fit. I can't really lift weights anymore. I have issues with my shoulders this way, mastectomy, so I can't really lift weights anymore. Um, one of the side effects of breast cancer is weight gain. People think you lose weight from chemo. Breast cancer, actually, most people gain weight. So I've put on some weight. It's just like learning to accept what your limitations are. And like, I nap most days. Like, I've learned how to do things, but I also don't let it stop me, because like, I still want to live. Like, I'm young. I have so much to live. Like, one of the most important things now with my kids is just like creating happy memories with my kids is like very important. Like, I'm always doing things with my kids because I just want to live a happy, long life with them and give them as many experiences and like look back at life. I want them to be adults looking back at their childhood and being like, I have so many happy, fun memories to look back at. Like, that's very important to me. So I just keep going. I don't know. I'm
Wow.
just
But to just like wrap up, right? Because we're like getting towards the end here. First of all, is there anything that you'd want to share you haven't shared yet?
there are some things about infertility I would love to talk about, like, that really got me over the years. And I think people, if they're more cognizant of it, won't do it to others. And it's something I've spoken about recently. And some people have told me that they've now implemented it. I hated, and I don't know if you relate to this, hated when people would refer to me as mommy. Like, tell that mommy. Or I was one time like shopping and the lady's like, let that mommy go in front of me. And I'm like, I'm not a mommy. Like, don't refer to every adult as a mommy or a tati or an abba or whatever. They are adults. My kids know that I refer to them as adults. And like, even like Eliana will say to me when I'm a mommy, I'm like, no, when you're an adult, then you could do X, Y, and Z, because you're not being a mommy at 18. But also, like, you don't know that you're having a baby right away. And like, just because you're an adult doesn't like, you're not less of a person because you're not a mommy. And also, it's so triggering. Like, I'm not a mommy. Like, don't call me mommy. I'm an adult. Like, now, if you, like, so someone asked me, like, what about like my kids, like their friends' mothers? Can I say like, whatever, Eliana's mommy? I don't have a problem with that. I am super proud of being my kid's mommy. Like, that is such an honor for me. But that's if you know me. If you don't know who I am, I'm not some random person. Like, don't refer to me as a mommy. I'm an adult. So that's
Right.
like a huge thing for me. And another thing that really triggered me when I was going through infertility was bad parenting. So people think like having kids around is like triggering. No, no, I love kids. But like, seatbelt them in the car. It's not that complicated. Like, that is bad parenting. Like, look at them when they're talking to you, when you're on your phone and you're walking, like, and your kid's trying to get your attention. Like, no, I'm on the phone. No, pay attention to your kids. Like, these things, like, really annoy me. So those were, like, big things for me when it comes to infertility.
I am curious, out of everything, what do you think have been the hardest struggle that you've dealt with?
I feel like the mental health was very, very challenging at the time, and it still affects probably my husband. Like, my mental health challenge from back then probably affects him more than affects me now. But I feel like the infertility never left me, even though I have my kids. I didn't have more kids, and right now because of my breast cancer, I can't. But like that like I still don't want to hold someone else's newborn baby. I find that very triggering, and people don't understand that. They sometimes people take offense to it. Also, like, don't give me your baby. Like, I don't need to hold some. Like, I don't need to
Will you
hold your
hold
baby.
my baby?
Your baby, I will probably not leave go up. But it's different. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to hold everyone's baby, or like there are certain things that still trigger me that I didn't even realize, like, even now that my kids just turned 7. So like I've been like I'm a mother for 7 years, and I still struggle with a lot of things with infertility. And I'm a big advocate for mental health, and I still talk to people about it. Like, sometimes people will call me about it. But I don't I'm like kind of more like proud of that I went through and I got out on top, and like I'm so okay now, and I have all these skills that I learned, and because of what I went through, I was able to take those skills to get me through my cancer treatments without falling apart, without getting depressed. And I was able to get out every single day and walk, which is huge accomplishment from my surgery date, and like every single day, like to get and to put myself together and like take care of myself. And I realized that I can no longer cook and bake when I was going through cancer treatment, which was what I did to like unwind and like, or it's like my hobby. I took up art and I took up writing. These are things that I didn't have before. These are like new skills that I've learned that I have and I love, and I'm working on something with my meditative art that I've been doing only because of my cancer. So there are a lot of things I also learned, like you can party through everything. Like, make a party, celebrate. Like, you're worth celebrating. No one else has to celebrate you. Like, you can celebrate yourself. Like, you're worthy enough to celebrate yourself. I threw my own mastectomy party, like a literally like a I don't know if you want to put this back, but like I literally made a boob voyage party where we say goodbye to my boobs. I made a freaking party. When I had no hair on my head, I had Aviva Segal come over and some friends, and she painted my head with a henna crown, and we had a sushi party. Like, my friends thought I was crazy. Like, and I finished chemo. We went I went with some of my friends. I took them zip lining, and some of them were terrified. I'm like, I freaking got through chemo. Like, you're coming zip lining. Like, I don't really care. So we went zip line. Like, and then I made a huge Suicide party, and I made it into a dance party because I specifically did a dance party to like move my body and show that my body's still working, even though I had so many issues with my body and like so much pain and suffering went through it. And I still have issues with my body. That's something I struggle with. Like, I feel like it betrayed me, and like I celebrated, and I'm the one who's made all these parties. Like, I'm the one who initiated them because I'm worthy to be celebrated, and I want to take my friends with me. Like, you don't need to wait for people to tell you how awesome you are. Like, you need to know it and believe it, and like tell your friends, okay, I'm ready for a party. Let's go. Like, celebrate me. Like, come celebrate with it. Like, I tell you what I need. Like, I'm very good at telling people what I need, but that's something that has come through all this stuff because people don't
Wow.
know what you need unless you tell them what you need.
Yeah,
So,
no, for sure. Do you have any comments or specific things while you were going through cancer, infertility, any of that that really like stuck it into your mind as really bad or really like amazing that somebody said that to you?
really good or really bad.
Yeah.
Well, when I was going through infertility, I had somebody ask me, she's like, she got pregnant when she didn't want to be. And she's like, she calls me up. She's like, I don't know how I'm going to tell people I'm pregnant again. I'm like, why the hell are you calling me? Like, why are you calling me? Like, I was so angry. And this kid now is probably like 15. So you're talking about like, and it was like, I was recently married then, but like, that really was like really annoyed me. I also hated when people like, you're the first person I'm telling I'm pregnant. I'm like, I don't need to be the first person. I don't like that. Some people like that. I don't know. I don't need to be the last. I don't need to be the first. Just treat me like everybody else. I know, like, I could talk so much about the infertility stuff because so much more has happened that, like, it was a longer period of time. So, like, I have so many different things. But I also had, like, over 20 nieces and nephews born during my infertility journey. Like, 26 maybe or 27 nieces and nephews. Like, not cousins, not friends, just nieces and nephews. So, like, it was a lot of stuff. Um,
Wow.
but like through cancer, I didn't have so many. I mean, I did have some weird people, like some weird comments, like, "Are you gonna die from this?" You know, like my mother's friend had it and she died. Like, that was like weird to me. Like, why are you telling me about people who died? Like, that's not helpful. You know, or like somebody saw me. She's like, "You look like you lost weight. I'm like, I'm on chemo, or like things like that. Like that was another thing. Like I went every single Shabbos to shul because I love our community and our shul, and we have this amazing women communities kiddush every week. And that I told them beforehand. I said Shabbos is like my time to enjoy, and I don't feel that like I'm going to the kiddush. I went every single week to the kiddush during chemo. I was like, I don't want even one question. No one's allowed to ask me how I feel. No one's allowed to ask me about my treatment. If you want to know how I'm doing, you have 6 days a week to ask me about it. But Shabbos, I'm just here to have fun and just enjoy myself. And I think that's a big thing to be able to tell people what you need, that I was saying before, because like people don't know. As the people tell me, you look so good. And then like a year ago, my friend Rivka Sher, who had flown in to visit me when I was sick, she tells me, she's like, I thought you were dying. Like she's like, I cried and cried and cried when I saw you. I'm like, the whole time kept telling me I look so great. Like, thanks. Like now I hear the truth that I looked so terrible. She thought I was like dead. But
Hi.
that's okay. I make it through. So hopefully never again,
Perfect
because it's
man.
literally hell to go through chemo. It really is.
Wow.
I mean, everyone reacts different. I'm just super sensitive, and yeah, I tend to get very sick with everything. So
So, okay, so the last question. Do you have a favorite pasuk or a quote that has been your motto that has gotten you through the hard times?
I think like I don't have any one specific. I feel like these things change through the course of my life. Like, like I'm married 17, just about 17 years now. So like different things have happened throughout my life as I've shared most of it or a lot of it. So like quotes come and go. I am very into quotes, and I love looking up quotes and painting towards it for a quote that I like. So I don't have any specific quote, but one thing I do say a lot is Hodil Hashem Kitov, especially when things are crappy and especially when things are bad. Like I just need to say it. And like eventually, hopefully I'll come to that point of being thankful. But even if I don't become thankful for it, like Hodu Hashem Kitov, I know it's good, even if it sucks and even if it's terrible and even if it's hard. Like Hashem thinks it's good, so it must be good. And I don't know. Hopefully I'll see the good eventually.
I mean. And yeah, I just wanted to thank you for coming on and inspiring us all. You are an incredible speaker, and I can't believe that this is your first podcast.
See that?
And I'm so happy that you shared
We're
your
not be
story
getting
with
more
all of
phone
us.
calls.
You're gonna get a lot more phone calls.
Oh,
Anyways,
thank you for having me. It was so nice.
thank you so much for coming on.